And now, the voice of truth. News, interviews, political commentary, current issues that affect Christians today. The Voice of Truth is your Washington, D.C. connection from a Christian perspective exclusively on CSN, featuring White House correspondent Dr. Anthony Harper and Shannon Skolton. Warning, the Voice of Truth contains unapologetic criticism of current events, reveals disingenuous politics, and addresses difficult issues. If you are easily offended by political incorrectness, you may not want to listen. Listener discretion is advised. And now, your host, Shannon Skolton.
Hi, welcome to Voice of Truth. I'm your host, Shannon Skolton, and I'm here today with Dr. Anthony Harper. How you doing, Anthony?
Well, I'm busy being thankful and love that attitude of gratitude, you know.
Attitude of gratitude. Yeah. Can't beat that. And we have an amazing guest today.
Yes.
Governor Mike Huckabee. He's a man who needs no introduction, that's for sure. You've seen him on Fox News, and he has a program on TBN. He has many friends in the political realm as governor of Arkansas. And he's a gifted man of the Lord, and we are excited to have him on today. Governor Huckabee, it is a blessing to have you.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon. Delighted to be with you and Dr. Harper, and look forward to a conversation today.
We are excited to have you on, and I know we have many questions for you, but I'm going to let Dr. Anthony kind of take the lead here. He's got some things he wants to say before we jump right into it.
Well, yes, Governor Huckabee, first of all, wanted to say, give you a notice of our appreciation for what you do, and your daughter Sarah. You know, I think about my experience at the White House and how Sarah helped me out tremendously at the White House. I'm so thankful for. But I was very disappointed about how she was treated by the White House Correspondents Association. I made a complaint about that, demanding a letter of apology, the way she was treated. So I just want to let you know that there are many evangelical Christians that were very upset about the way Sarah was treated, and how much we appreciate you, and especially we think about your support for Israel, Governor Huckabee.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for the support of Sarah. She loved the job, and I think had it not been for the necessity to be with her 3 children, she would have probably stayed, because despite all the challenges that she faced, and there were many, she loved working for the president. She loved the job she had. What an incredible opportunity to sit on the very front row of some incredible moments of American history, to be witness to the goings-on of the White House in a way few people ever will. Your kind support of her means a lot, because there were people, as you observed firsthand, that were anything but respectful of the office of president, of the president himself. I get it that reporters have every right to ask tough, penetrating, difficult questions. That's what they're supposed to be there for, but they're not to be there for a particular ideology or interest, but to represent all of the people. Their job is to be not only curious, but to be a little bit cynical, to be just skeptical, if you will. Maybe not cynical, but skeptical, and to ask. But what the press corps turned into was not skepticism and curiosity. It was hostility. It was advocacy for the other side.
Truly.
That's what I think America missed out on. To your point of Israel, I've been going to Israel since 1973. My first trip there was when I was 17 years old, just gotten out of high school, and fell in love with the place, and I've been going back many times. I'm usually there 4 or 5 times a year. I've taken thousands of people to Israel to help them to see it firsthand for themselves, not only for the biblical setting and to better appreciate Scripture, but also to understand the vital role that Israel plays in our modern society and world.
Yes.
I can say without doubt, and I say this not because the president is in power now, we have never had a president who has been more supportive of Israel than has President Trump. We've had some good ones. Harry Truman recognized the creation of the nation of Israel 30 minutes after they declared their independence, and that was crucial. Without it, they may not have survived their first day. Later, Richard Nixon would intervene during the Yom Kippur War by sending supplies, not men, and I think a lot of Americans maybe don't know this. The United States has never put a single boot on the ground in support of Israel's military. We've never gone in and shed American blood to prop up Israel, to somehow support them. They do their own fighting. What we have done is supply them with equipment, arms, intelligence, and peripheral support, but they do their own fighting. And when I hear Americans say, we've done so much for Israel, I'm thinking, not nearly as much as we've done for other countries.
That's true.
Where we young Americans shed blood for them. So whether it's the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital, moving the embassy, recognizing the Golan Heights as sovereign Israeli territory, whether it's seeking to very clearly send the message that Israel's interest would be the U.S. interest. This is a president who has shown he understands Genesis 12:3. The nations that bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And I'm grateful for the president's actions that have demonstrated that. It's not just been words. Other presidents have said things. This president has done things.
He truly has done things. And, to follow up that with Governor Huckabee, I wanted to bring about a couple of questions regarding Israel, and that I was at that U.S. Embassy opening ceremony in Jerusalem. Were you there?
I was there. Yes, I was. It was a surreal moment. Electrifying is the best way I can describe it, as I'm sure you would agree.
It was a very historic time, but I'm also thinking about what's coming up with President Trump's peace plan. A lot of evangelical Christians are concerned about the division of Israel, especially as it relates to Joel chapter 3, verse 2, where it indicates God is angry about dividing up Israel, and then that states that God enters into the judgment into the valley of Jehoshaphat, the nations that divide up his land. And I just wanted to have you kind of respond to the peace plan, about the division of Israel. And it was really strange. I don't know if this is how might this be a causation or not, but definitely a correlation. That at the time that this peace plan was being brought out or considered seriously, we had the coronavirus issue happening. And I wonder if you had thought about that connection, if there's a correlation or a causation. I know the reporter from the White House, Bill Koenig, has referred to often about plagues and disasters as it relates to our decisions about Israel. Do you have a comment about that?
Well, I'm not smart enough to maybe comment that there's a cause or even some connection. I just simply don't know. That would be something God's going to have to be real clear about to us.
Right.
I do think, and I'm going to say very candidly, anything that we did that supported a division of Israel, I just can't get my arms around that. I'm one who believes that the boundaries of the nation of Israel were established not by the United Nations, the League of Nations, or by the accords that were signed at Oslo, or even by something proposed by President Trump. The boundaries of Israel were given by God to Abraham, and those are the boundaries that we ought to respect and honor. And I think anything other than that, I'm going to have a problem with it, because first and foremost, I'm a biblical literalist. I believe that the Scripture says what it means, and it means what it says. And so if God says, here's the real estate, Israel, that I'm giving to you, then the only question for us is whether we're going to respect that or not. So I hope that while the peace plan, I know there were many people, including a lot of evangelicals, that thought it was, great, or some would call it the first step, other things. I've had some reservations about it, and I've been very honest about that. Is it perhaps that it is sort of something laid on the table to expose that the Palestinians really aren't interested whatsoever in the peace of the region, which they've already demonstrated they're not. This was, I think, a very generous plan to them, and before they even read it, they rejected it out of hand. What I would love to see the administration do is to say, we put forth a plan, they have utterly rejected it, therefore our plan is this. Israel is free to declare all of its ancient, historical, biblical boundaries as its legitimate boundaries and homeland. And if the Palestinians wish to share in it, then they go to Israel and figure out a way to make that work. But we no longer are going to pretend that they are seriously interested in a peace process, they've shown that they're not.
Absolutely.
A lot of troubling issues.
Battle rages on the ground between Israel and Hamas.
1,300 by gunfire at
By saying that Palestinian women
Gaza violence,
casualties.
military support, blaming victims.
In a region of the world that's torn by centuries of conflict, oppression, and turmoil, a tiny modern state with ancient roots shines as a beacon of hope against all odds. The nation of Israel is an oasis of democracy and stability, and it's curbed terrorism for decades by battling evil and holding true to its values. America shares these values and must support Israel to maintain peace in the region and Israel's freedom in order for it to remain in its own land.
America-Israel relations is the strongest diplomatic relations ever. The piece of land that belongs to the Jewish people, belongs to the only democratic system in this region. I think that what makes it so strong is actually the fact we have mutual values.
We value truth, we value justice, we value democracy. These are basic pillars that our two countries share, and as a result, we not only have a shared past and a shared present, we also have a shared future.
The purpose of this documentary isn't to show the world that Israel should exist or have its own land and culture and so forth. We're past that. This film will endeavor to educate Americans and others that we must stand with Israel in its fight against evil and its pursuit of peace for the world. Join with Oculi Entertainment and executive producer Denise Hopkins to help bring this all-important message to America and to the entire world.
Israel has more scientists and tech professionals than any other nation in the world.
Israel produces 450 million cubic meters of drinkable water a day. The technology is now used in more than 40 countries around the world.
So you have this really unusual and unique link between our countries because there's no other country in the world that can say they've given humanity the things that Israel, the Jewish state, has given us.
It's an attachment that is ideological, that is theological, that is emotional.
Check out our website at imcnews.org. Click on the YouTube banner, you will see there. And for all the White House interviews on our YouTube channel, you can check it out. Also, my reports in Israel regarding anti-Semitism and so much more. Please pray about supporting good news here at the White House, truth reporting. You can go to our website at imcnews.org and click on that donate button to make a difference in supporting reporting of truth here at the White House.
We read news every day, news that's informative but rarely encouraging. The Intermountain Christian newspaper aims to change that. They present the news you need to know, from what's going on in your community to your world, with encouraging words, motivation, and the resources you need to make positive changes in your life. What is your local government doing that you need to know about? What's happening in your community you need to be a part of? Whether it's a story from your neighborhood, a national story, or an encouraging word, you'll find biblical issues of everyday life in the Intermountain Christian newspaper. Intermountain Christian News is produced and supported by the work and donations of individuals and churches. You'll find it at churches, Christian bookstores, by subscription, and online at imcnews.org. To find out more about supporting this local resource, go online at imcnews.org or call Intermountain Christian News in Boise, Idaho at 208-703-8688. The Intermountain Christian News, a voice sharing the truth on matters dear to people's hearts.